Everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Roswell. This was after a 2-week break, and I was so glad to have it back. It really felt just like forever in between episodes, which it was just really 2 weeks. But I'm telling you, I've really gotten sucked into this show, and therefore it was really just killing me, the little hiatus I had there. I can only imagine what's going to be like in between, like season 1 and season 2, provided we get a season 2. But anyway, so this episode tonight was like a big flashback to when the night that Rosa died, and there was so much information. It was just crazy good. After that, you go to a scene from the next day. There's a quick scene with Max and Isabel, and he's talking to her about getting in trouble, and she really just doesn't seem like she cares. Now later on, they're at the crash down talking again, and he mentioned something to her about going to the prom and how she can't go to the prom now because she was in trouble, and she clearly does not remember this, but she's trying to mask it, saying, oh, she'll figure it out, that kind of stuff. So you start to see the split personality come out during this part. Rosa shows up and has a quick little scene with Isabel where she's talking about going to a movie, and Isabel completely blows her off, and I can't decide then if she just didn't want anyone to know that they were friends, or if she really doesn't remember hanging around Rosa. And Max kind of apologizes to her, but Rosa's clearly hurt by this. After that, they show the prom, and there's just a quick little scene there that I was thrown in definitely for the fans of the original Roswell. Is Isabel is kind of giving Max and Michael a hard time about not having dates, and then something's brought up about some girl named Tess having a thing for Max, and Max completely blows it off. He's not interested in her, and like I said, I think that was just thrown in to make the fans of the original series kind of laugh. So, it's stuff like that that makes the series special to me. During the prom, you have this scene where Kyle is kind of confronting Alex, and he's been making fun of him. They kind of have a conflict there. They get into a little fight, and Michael kind of intervenes. Liz sees all this happening. She blows Kyle off, and like I said, there's this little tension scene between Michael and Alex that's going to lead into more later. Now after that, there is a scene where Isabel shows up at the crash down, and Rosa's there, and Isabel's kind of trying to apologize for blowing her off earlier. She makes some line about how she wishes she could be herself around everyone like she is around Rosa. And again, I kind of think they're calling back to this crazy split personality thing she's got going on. Rosa says she's going to leave town, or she's thinking about skipping town to be with this guy who's going to help her get clean. And we know she's talking about Valenti, but we, the audience, know this, but Isabel doesn't know. Isabel starts to freak out because she's losing someone else in her life. She starts to get that predatory, creepy vibe again, and she says something to Rosa about, why don't we run away together? Then we find a cute little scene of Max and Liz, and he's kind of talking to her after her blow up with Kyle, and they're talking about their future, and it's just a cute little scene between them that showcases the chemistry between the actors, I think. Then you have Michael showing up, and he's trying to talk in code to Max, but he's basically saying, hey, I've had a feeling about Isabel. She's in trouble, and we need to figure out where she's at. Max comes up with an excuse, and he leaves, and then we find that they've been searching all night for Isabel, that she's had like another blackout episode, and she's trying to tell him that she's trying to mask that she didn't have a blackout, but they know she did, and she doesn't really know what she did during that time overnight, but she does have red hands, but it's paint, not blood. Then you have a quick little scene between Michael and Alex. Michael is basically hanging out in this shed that's in Alex's backyard, and they have this quick moment where they're talking about the prom, and then they kind of have like an almost kiss moment, and this will be touched upon later, and it's like this really charged moment between them. After that, there's another super crazy scene between Isabel and Rosa, and Izzy is clearly in that other personality where she's like preying on her, and she's just super creepy, and Rosa kind of blows her off, and Isabel gives this really creepy look to the camera. This, of course, leads into Rosa having another little argument with Liz, which in turn sets up the fact that Max is going to take Liz out into the desert. They're going to work on a school project, but they end up blowing that off. They use fake IDs and get beer, and they're basically just kind of drinking in the desert, because with them, it's all about the desert. And they have a cute scene where she's kind of teaching them how to dance a little bit, and the chemistry between them is just really, really good. They kind of have this near kiss moment, but she kind of puts a stop to it, saying that their timing sucks, and wow, there was never more true words at this point. Also with that, you have another scene kind of intermixed with this one where Michael, he seeks out Alex, who is working at the UFO center, and they talk a little bit, and then Michael very awkwardly kisses him for the first time, and then it kind of leads into them going back to the shed, where they proceed to have sex for the first time. And after they're done, Alex's dad walks in on them, and he just gets infuriated, and he ends up taking a hammer to Michael's hand, which was really just bizarre. And so after, that's what explains why Michael had the broke hand in all the other flashbacks. Then you have Max going to leave the note that he leaves for Liz that we've seen in a previous episode, and we see the scene that we've also seen a flashback of where Max encounters a very drunk Rosa. They have a little argument, and she basically tells him, to stay away from her sister because, Isabel's playing her, and she thinks that Max is going to play Liz like that. So we get a little more context to that scene. Now here's where the episode gets extremely crazy. After that scene between Max and Rosa, sometime later, like I said, we don't really know how much time has passed. Both Michael and Max get this vision of Isabel being in trouble. Michael makes it out there to the desert first. He stumbles upon the 2 dead girls that has been mentioned before, and then he goes into this cave and he sees Isabel, and she's kind of got like this hold on Rosa's face, and she basically just drops her at that point, and we see that Rosa is dead. Of course, Michael doesn't see everything. That's why I think there's going to be some kind of Isabel flashback episode in the future that's kind of filling the blanks. But Michael clearly thinks that Isabel has killed her, and I mean, from what we see, it looks like it's true. And he yells at Isabel, and he says something about like, "What have you done?" And Isabel turns to him and says she couldn't be trusted, and then she just drops like a stone. At this point, Max shows up. He hasn't seen any of this, and Michael is just like, she did it. She killed all those girls. Max isn't really hearing him at this point, I don't think, but he tries to save Rosa, but he can't bring her back. He's not strong enough yet. And then so they kind of orchestrate this cover-up where they're going to, make sure that no one finds out what actually happened, because they're doing this to protect themselves as well as Isabel. Now Isabel is still passed out, and then so Michael uses telekinesis to do this really creepy thing where he's making the girls float, and they basically put them in Rosa's car. And I really hope there's some kind of explanation for why they had Rosa driving the car, because this is going to lead into where the whole town hates the Ortechos because they think Rosa is responsible for these girls' deaths, which wasn't the case. But after that, Isabel comes to, and she kind of comes onto the scene. She sees the tail end of it, and Michael clearly sees that she doesn't know what happened. So he kind of makes up that he's the one that did it, that it was an accident, and because he sees how much strain Izzy's under and what's going on with her. And Max just goes with it. Like I said, they put the girls in the car, and then Michael uses his powers to drive the car off the road to make it look like it has a wreck. Izzy says it's not enough, and they go over there, and Max uses his powers to set the car on fire. And after that, that's pretty much, and I found this whole scene really intensely creepy that this is going on. It adds so much more depth to the show and to this accident, and I honestly don't know how Liz and Max are going to come back from this one, because he didn't kill her sister, but he basically set all this stuff up that's made everyone hate the Ortechos, and it's just changed so much in Liz's life. And like I said, I don't know how they're going to come back from this one. They're really going to have to get very creative with explaining this. The very last scene that you have of the episode is Liz talking to Max, and it's it's cut off right from the previous episode where she's confronted him about it. And he's telling her, the reasons he did all this. He had to do this for his sister. He doesn't really know what happened exactly. Well, she lashes out at him, and rightfully so. And she tells him she never wants to see him again. And you really can't blame her on that one. And that's pretty much where your episode ends. Now, like I said, this episode was just so intense. It was so good. And I absolutely cannot wait for the next one. Like I said, I've said it before, I really wish this was all one season that you could binge, because I just want to know so much more about this right now. But I mean, I guess that's a sign of a good show. It's making you wait. It's making you want to know more. It's making you come back every week, as opposed to just sitting there and watching them all together. So anyways, let me know what you guys thought about this episode. Drop a comment or hit me up on Twitter, and be sure to check out the other videos. I have all the Roswell recaps in a playlist on here, and I'll see you guys next week. Enjoy your week, and we'll see you back next Wednesday.